operating system. If you're a focused learner and you're interested in welcome to today's explainer, we are going to be
Welcome to the explainer. Down that whole woo-woo.
okay,
Welcome to the debate. Right now,
welcome to today's
Welcome to the explainer. Look, today we're tearing.
okay, picture this.
Welcome to today's explainer.
welcome to the debate. Right now, in the coaching industry, there is,
Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring something that is literally a game changer for coaches. We're talking about synchronizing two powerhouse systems, the Verdict Studio and the Coach's Operating System, or COS for short. When you bring these two together, you're completely transformed into what's called a high-precision architect diagnostician. You know, if you've ever felt like your sessions are just a bit too unstructured or you're struggling to justify those premium fees, well, you're in the perfect place. We're going to break down exactly how you move away from all that guesswork and step into a position of undeniable authority.
So to really grasp the shift, we have to look at the massive difference between a vulnerable, kind of vibe-based conversation partner and a true forensic diagnostician. On one hand, you've got the improviser. They show up, they listen, maybe they offer some nice advice, but they're basically just a conversationalist. They have to rely on pitching to get clients, and honestly, client retention usually suffers because the value just isn't tangible enough. But then you flip to the architect diagnostician. By combining COS and Verdict Studio, you are suddenly running a highly structured forensic analysis. You're documenting, you're prescribing, and you're delivering absolute certainty. It's a completely different ballgame.
Here's our roadmap for today's masterclass. We'll be hitting 5 key areas. First, the diagnostician upgrade. Second, the 3-layer framework. Third, the stranger wallet test. Fourth, delivering the verdict. And fifth, the licensing blueprint. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the diagnostician upgrade.
Think about the number 15,000. When you upgrade your identity from just being someone to talk to into a forensic authority, you completely change the financial equation. We're talking about jumping from trying to sell, say, $150 an hour chats to commanding engagements worth $15,000 to $25,000. Because here's the thing, sophisticated buyers with real money, they can smell desperation. They do not want a vendor who just pitches them. They want a trusted advisor who can actually reduce their risk and give them clarity. And that's exactly what this system does. It gives you instant positioning. Honestly, a brand new coach could use this and sound like a 20-year industry veteran right on day one. Plus, when you leave in the 12-week Ascent blueprint, those premium clients actually stick around because they can see the entire roadmap from their initial illumination all the way to expansion right from that very first session.
All right, moving on to Section 2, the 3-layer framework.
This unified 3-layer framework is really the beating heart of the architect diagnostician approach. Let's break it down. Step 1 is the visible layer. This is where COS looks at a client's goals and behaviors, while Verdict Studio comes in to do a hardcore forensic audit of their business operations, metrics, and revenue. Then we go deeper. Step 2 is the invisible layer. COS zeroes in on identity patterns, and Verdict Studio diagnoses the actual person behind the business. It uncovers how a founder's internal fears or blind spots are literally causing the operational mess we just saw in Step 1. Finally, we hit Step 3, the core layer. This is all about aligning their deepest purpose and values with their external strategy. And it doesn't matter if you're an executive coach trying to fix organizational friction or a health coach auditing someone's entire lifestyle ecosystem, these 3 layers guarantee clinical precision across the board. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the stranger wallet test. Now, the golden rule here is that hope is cheap, but a payment, that is absolute proof. And that's the whole philosophy behind the stranger wallet test. Look, most people are terrified of wasting months building a product that nobody even wants, but they also don't have the budget to run expensive ads to test it. Well, this test solves that completely by requiring a financial commitment before you build anything.
As our source material brilliantly points out, paying customers give you infinitely better data than any survey ever could. Why? Because surveys only tell you what people say they'll do. And we all know there's a massive gap between saying you like an idea and actually pulling out a credit card. Plus, you absolutely have to run this test on complete strangers. Friends and family, they have validation bias. They're going to lie just to protect your feelings. Strangers, on the other hand, will tell you the absolute truth because they don't care about your feelings. If your idea is a dud, they'll simply ignore it.
So how do you actually execute this? It's a precise 3-step machine. Step 1, create a simple 1-page offer. You don't need a finished product. You just need a landing page that clearly explains the outcome and has a price tag. Step 2,
Go find 10 strangers in your target audience. We're talking Reddit, Facebook groups, specific forums where people are already complaining about the exact problem you're trying to solve. Step 3, share that offer with a pre-sale price or require a deposit. You have to include a price tag because price is the ultimate filter. You want to measure true buying intent, not just casual curiosity. Once you've run the test, you've got to look at the data, which gives you a completely objective forensic answer on what to do next. If under 5% of people buy it, the market doesn't care. Stop right there and find a new angle. If you hit between 5 and 15%, you've got some interest, but you definitely need to pivot and tweak your messaging. But if you hit 15% or higher, that is a massive green light. You push forward, build out that minimum viable product, and get to work. It literally takes all the guesswork out of the equation.
Let's jump to section 4, delivering the verdict.
Okay, imagine this. You sit down with a client, and using the 8 principles of business autopsy, you identify a $50,000 revenue leak in just 90 minutes. That is the power of being a true diagnostician. Think about it. If your client paid, say, $1,500 for that single diagnostic engagement, you've just handed them a 33x return on their investment right out of the gate. You're no longer selling a bundle of hourly chat sessions. You're selling a massive, immediate, undeniable ROI.
And this is where the synergy between the two systems is just beautiful. Instead of making some desperate sales pitch, you use the spiral inward method from COS to show incredible depth. Then, you literally hand them a written verdict from Verdict Studio. It's a physical document that acts like a mirror, making their exact problems undeniable in black and white. When you take the 55 psychological movement scripts from COS and combine them with the 20 diagnostic templates from Verdict Studio, things like the uniqueness audit or the triage score, you're transforming a wishy-washy coaching call into a high-powered diagnostic engine. You literally become 100 times more effective.
And lastly, section 5, the licensing blueprint. So how do you get your hands on this? The Verdict Method license literally hands you a turnkey diagnostic practice. When you secure this license, you get a physical branding kit showcase, which fully transitions you into a certified practitioner. We're talking about getting the Business Autopsy Bible, all the diagnostic templates, the case studies, and the actual legal right to use the Verdict brand in your own marketing. It's a non-exclusive, perpetual master license that completely overhauls your professional identity, giving you 4 huge rights. First, you can rebrand it. Literally rename the materials to be your own proprietary system. Second, repackage. Mix these diagnostic templates right into your existing coaching services. Third, resell. You can sell these licensed materials to your clients for whatever price you want, and you keep 100% of the revenue. And fourth, deploy. You get full rights to use these frameworks to analyze and diagnose in your own consulting and client work.
As for the investment to unlock this whole turnkey system, the sources actually mention 2 figures. There's a $497 listing in the manuscript and a $997 one-time fee for lifetime access mentioned in the branding kit showcase. Either way, the best part is there are absolutely 0 ongoing royalties. To get the ball rolling, you just email the creator directly with the subject line, license inquiry. Seriously, it is the absolute fastest way to escape the commodity trap and build a premium, authoritative brand.
I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought about your own foundation. Are you actually building a business, a real asset with diagnostic power and structural integrity? Or are you just renting a moment, relying on good vibes and guesswork, just hoping your clients decide to stick around? Are you leaving your entire success up to chance? Or are you finally ready to become the architect? Take these principles, run the stranger wallet test on your next big idea, and step into the authority you completely deserve. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.
Welcome to today's explainer. We are going to be exploring a really fascinating, incredibly powerful methodology called the Coach's Operating System. If you're a focused learner and you're interested in human behavior, psychology, or leadership, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to dive into an integrated coaching architecture that goes way, way beyond surface-level advice like, just work harder or set better goals. Instead, we're looking at the exact maps, blueprints, and levers that world-class coaches use to create real, lasting transformation. Let's get into it. So it really all starts with one core question. Why do smart, extremely capable people get entirely stuck? We all know someone, right? Maybe it's even you. Someone who has all the talent in the world, yet they repeatedly just hit a wall. Traditional solutions usually fail here because they only ever attempt to fix the visible symptoms. It's like offering a brand new calendar app to someone who is fundamentally burned out, or handing a new business strategy to someone who unconsciously fears success. It just doesn't work. Today, we're going to learn how to actually identify and fix those root causes. All right, here is our map for today's explainer. We'll start with the 3 coaching layers, look at the 7 elevation levers, define client blueprints, dive into the 12 patterns of stuckness, and finish up with a real-world scenario. Okay, step 1, the 3 coaching layers. This is where we establish our foundation and see where real transformation actually happens. Think of a person's internal operating system a lot like a giant iceberg. The surface level is what we call the visible layer. This is everything the client can easily see and name. Their goals, their daily habits, their metrics, the conscious outcomes. Things like, I want to lose weight or I need to grow my business. But beneath the waterline, that's where the deep driving forces live. The invisible layer is made up of core beliefs, identity patterns, and totally unexamined assumptions. It's that quiet inner voice saying, I'm not good enough, or if I fail, I'll be rejected. And then even deeper than that is the core layer, holding a person's fundamental values and true life purpose. True stuckness? Yeah, it almost always lives down there in the invisible and core layers, not up on the surface. So, if the 3 layers are the map of the territory, part 2 is the 7 elevation levers, the actual mechanics of change. What are these levers? Well, they're essentially 7 specific tools that act as precise intervention points for any coaching challenge. We use clarity to illuminate the path when a client is totally lost. Identity rewrites their core story. Strategy designs the bridge to their actual goals, while execution makes sure they literally do the work. When someone is burned out, we use the energy lever to restore their foundation. Connection builds up their relational capacity. And finally, expansion. This one is huge. Expansion increases their internal ability to hold the next level of success without self-sabotaging. Moving to section 3, defining client blueprints. Let's talk about how we map this territory. Now, we've mapped the layers and the levers, but how do you know exactly which lever to pull? We do this using what we call client blueprints, and this is absolutely crucial to understand. A blueprint is not a medical diagnosis, not at all. It is simply a recognizable pattern of stuckness. It acts as a map, taking coaching from complete guesswork into absolute precision. When a coach recognizes a blueprint, they instantly know the underlying belief that's causing the trouble and exactly which coaching lever they need to pull to create a massive breakthrough. Which brings us to part 4, the 12 patterns of stuckness. We're going to group these blueprints to make them super easy to digest. All right, first up we have a group called the driven and exhausted. Take the high achiever plateau, for example. This is the person who looks incredibly successful on the outside, but inside, they feel flat, bored, or like a machine just going through the motions, mostly because they believe their worth equals their output. To help them, we pull the connection and expansion levers. If we don't catch that, it often turns into a burnout spiral. This person is running on fumes, exhausted and resentful, but they feel they literally can't stop because they think resting is lazy. Here, you have to pull the energy lever first just to stabilize them, and then the identity lever to fix the belief. Finally, we have the performance ceiling. They hit the exact same wall repeatedly. They've got this internal thermostat saying going any higher is dangerous. So we use the expansion and identity levers to shatter that ceiling. Now, listen to this quote for a second. I know what I need to do, I just don't do it. Wow. Does that sound familiar? Because I hear it all the time. This is the exact language used by clients stuck in our next architectural group. On the surface, it looks like an execution problem, but trust me, it's driven by deep, invisible fears. This brings us to the fearful and blocked. The confidence gap is your classic imposter syndrome. They're incredibly capable but waiting to feel ready, not realizing that confidence actually follows action. It doesn't precede it. We shift this using the identity and execution levers. Then there's the creative block. This isn't just about lacking inspiration. It's a toxic mix of perfectionism and energy depletion, protecting them from being judged for imperfect work. So we pull energy, execution, and identity. Finally, visibility fear. This is when someone aggressively avoids being seen. They'll plan entire launches but never actually launch them, completely terrified that visibility invites criticism. We pull expansion and identity to overcome this fear. And then there's this feeling. I'm between selves. The old me died and the new me hasn't been born yet. This brilliantly illustrates the raw disorientation of our next group of clients who are navigating major life transitions. Here, we find lost and transitioning. The identity shift is exactly what that quote just described, feeling totally lost during a divorce or a huge career change. For this, we use identity and clarity to help them discover who they are beneath their old labels. Closely related is the purpose void, where someone is desperately searching for one single calling and feels fundamentally flawed because they haven't found it. They need clarity focused on the deepest core layer. Then there's transition terror, where the survival brain just completely freezes in the face of change. We use clarity and identity here. And lastly, the legacy question. This usually hits in midlife. What will my life have actually meant? This is a massive shift to the core layer, requiring the expansion lever to help them focus on deep meaning. Our final grouping is the disconnected. Relationship fracture is when a client keeps having the exact same fight or attracting the exact same problematic partner over and over. Their external relationships are just reflecting internal invisible beliefs like people always leave me. Leadership loneliness is the executive at the top who feels they absolutely cannot be vulnerable. They believe leaders have to be bulletproof to be respected, which just creates this deep, crushing isolation. For both of these blueprints, the primary levers we pull are connection and identity. Okay, Section 5, the scenario. Let's shift from the theory of this map and put it to work in a real-world setting. So, how do we actually apply this? It works through a very precise if this, then that framework. Step 1, you listen incredibly closely to the client's spoken words, because their language always leaves clues. Step 2, you pattern match those words to identify the specific blueprint they're currently running. Step 3, once you've got the blueprint, boom, you automatically know the correct elevation lever to pull to create a massive shift. Let's do a live puzzle together right now. Imagine you are sitting across from someone and they say this exact phrase. I've hit this same wall repeatedly no matter how hard I work. It's like an invisible force field at this specific income level. Okay, so first we listen. The client is explicitly telling us that changing their strategy is not working. The wall just keeps appearing. By pattern matching those specific words, we instantly identify their blueprint. This is the performance ceiling. It is definitely not an execution problem, it's a capacity problem. Let's unpack how this builds. On the surface, the visible layer, the symptom is stalled business and income growth. But because we know the blueprint, we know exactly what's happening down in the invisible layer. The client has an internal thermostat that is literally telling their nervous system that going any higher is dangerous. Maybe they're afraid of visibility, or maybe they fear outshining a sibling, or losing their underdog identity. By recognizing this hidden thermostat, we know exactly what to do. We pull the expansion and identity levers to help them hold that next level, breaking the ceiling for good. We have covered so much ground today. The 3 layers, the 7 levers, and the 12 patterns of stuckness that make up the coach's operating system. But listen, understanding the map is really only the first step. The real magic happens when you turn the mirror on yourself. So ask yourself honestly right now, which blueprint is currently running your operating system? Are you the high achiever stuck on a plateau? Are you trapped in the confidence gap? Identify your pattern, find your lever, and you can finally get yourself unstuck. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome to The Explainer. Look, today we're tearing down that whole woo-woo stigma that so often surrounds the coaching industry, and honestly, we're replacing it with pure high-end engineering. Because if you've ever felt like coaching is just a random collection of tips, or if you've ever had that nagging worry about how to actually guarantee results for your clients, well, you're exactly in the right place. We're going to deconstruct the coach's operating system. We're taking what a lot of people consider to be this unquantifiable art form and turning it into a precise, highly reliable methodology. Think of this as your masterclass in engineered transformation.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the session today. We're going to deconstruct 4 main architectural pillars. First up, the coaching credibility gap. Second, the end of improvisation. Third, stopping Session 3 ghosting. And finally, proof of transformation. All right, let's hit pillar number 1, the coaching credibility gap. We are exposing the industry's open secret.
So right now, let's be honest, there is a massive credibility gap in the coaching world. High-level clients are deeply and frankly, rightfully skeptical of meaningless credentials. You see, in the current industry landscape, we have what I like to call credit card credentials. Most certifications essentially just certify that, well, your Visa card went through. They do absolutely nothing to verify your actual ability to sit across from another human being and facilitate real, measurable transformation. We have to contrast that with competency-based evaluation. Now, this is the gold standard. This is a credential that actually proves your skill set and verifies your ability to perform the work in real time. It's something you literally cannot buy. You have to earn it. And to truly perform that work, we kind of need to define what coaching actually is at its core. I love how the source material puts this: the consultant is a crutch, the coach is a catalyst. Think about it. A consultant diagnoses a problem and just hands over the answer. But what happens next? The client executes it, sure, but they become totally dependent. The second they hit a new roadblock, they come running right back to you. A true coach, on the other hand, owns the process while the client owns the answer. A true coach triggers a reaction. You're forcing the client to do the absolute hardest thinking of their life until they become completely self-sufficient.
Moving right along to pillar number 2, the end of improvisation. It is time to replace panic with precision.
You know, far too many coaches suffer from this quiet internal panic of walking into a session, sitting down, and basically treating it like an open mic night. You're just sitting there, crossing your fingers, hoping inspiration magically strikes. But guys, world-class coaching does not rely on guesswork. The antidote to that panic? It's the number 55. Inside the coach's operating system, there's a Shift Scripts library that contains exactly 55 engineered coaching questions. And let me be clear, these aren't just polite conversation starters. They are precise, surgical, linguistic tools designed to eliminate the guesswork entirely. Let's actually look at a practical example. This is script CL-01, famously known as the fog lift. It asks, if you did know the answer, even just a guess, what would it be? Think about how incredibly often a client just stares blankly at you and says, I don't know, right? It's enough to make you want to pull your hair out. But instead of getting stuck in the mud there, this highly precise wording gracefully moves a client from a blocked, stuck frame into a wonderfully expansive one.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the specific psychology happening under the hood here. Because I don't know is rarely factually true. It's almost always a defense mechanism thrown up by the analytical mind. Adding the phrase, even just a guess, gives your client explicit, safe permission to completely bypass that defense. It allows them to access their own deep, intuitive knowledge without feeling that heavy, suffocating pressure of having to be correct. This right here is exactly how you turn the unpredictable art of coaching into engineered precision. You are literally pulling the exact right lever at the exact right time.
Which brings us to pillar number 3, stopping session 3 ghosting. We are building a visible path to transformation. Let's zoom out to the macro-level journey for a second. Why do clients randomly drop out or ghost you after just a few weeks? It happens because, to them, the engagement starts feeling like a collection of random, disconnected chats. This is a massive, massive pain point across the whole industry. Because without a visible path, the client simply cannot see how your coaching is actually going to solve their deeper underlying problems. If they don't know where the ship is sailing, they completely lose the motivation to stay on board. And that is exactly why you absolutely must share a structured engagement arc with your client very, very early on.
And this brilliantly illustrates the solution. It's mapped out in Chapter 10 of the source material as the 12-week Ascent Blueprint. By establishing this exact 4-phase transformation, you prove to your client right out of the gate that you have a specific destination in mind. You share this entire arc with them, from illumination in the first 3 weeks, over to recalibration, down to embodiment, all the way to expansion in weeks 10 through 12. When a client sees this full 12-week blueprint laid out, they finally understand the real value of their commitment, and honestly, the risk of them ghosting you drops to near zero.
Let's briefly walk through what actually happens inside those steps. In step 1, illumination, the client is identifying their hidden patterns and facing the true real-world costs of those patterns. In step 2, recalibration, you're stepping in to help them deconstruct those old limiting beliefs and physically install new ones right at the identity level. Then comes step 3, embodiment. That's where they practice this new identity out in the wild, in real-world low-stakes conditions. And finally, step 4 is expansion. This is where the new self is really tested under pressure and you establish their independent sovereignty. Bottom line, they don't need you anymore, which, honestly, is the ultimate goal of all this. And that brings us to our 4th and final pillar, proof of transformation, the Ascend certification.
So we've talked a lot about the tools and the architecture today, but how do we actually validate this entire system? How do we definitively prove that a coach can execute this at a world-class level? Well, the answer is the Ascend certification. This is the ultimate quality assurance phase. It requires a completely blind scored evaluation of a recorded, anonymized coaching session. This completely closes that credibility gap we were talking about at the very beginning, because this is a credential that clients can genuinely respect. Why? Because it demands undeniable, tape-reviewed proof of efficacy from the coach. You can't fake it, you have to actually demonstrate your skills.
So the crucial point is exactly how that session is being evaluated. The reviewers are looking directly at the Chapter 21 rubric criteria. Number 1, exploration depth. Number 2, shift quality. 3, presence and regulation, meaning how well are you managing your own nervous system in the room. 4, session architecture. And 5, client autonomy. Did you leave them empowered or did you leave them dependent on you? You should really treat this list as the ultimate checklist of a world-class coach. Because if you can consistently hit these 5 criteria, you aren't just coaching, you are delivering engineered transformation.
We have covered a ton of ground today, from bypassing the analytical mind with those 55 engineered scripts to completely stopping client ghosting with a highly visible 12-week blueprint, all the way to holding ourselves to the absolute highest standard of